This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life that you love. And this is part of the Career Planning Optimization series, where I'm hosting a variety of fitness professionals in business, master trainers, with longevity of successful and profitable business, certification creators, podcast hosts, all who are sharing their experience, expertise, and insights to give you takeaways that you can use right now to plan a better future. And my guest today is Barry Ennis. Barry is a 31-year-old fitness professional from Los Angeles. For years, he struggled with standing out from literally hundreds of other instructors just like him and letting his unique voice and message be heard. In such a competitive industry, he felt like he wasn't able to have the impact he knew he could have. He now hosts a podcast called Fitness Career Mastery, where he interviews fitness professionals and lets them share how they work through struggles, how they've achieved incredible success, and how they use their voice to change people's lives for the better. And Barry, welcome.
Deborah, thank you so much.
All right. First of all, that intro didn't actually do justice for you. So let's do where in the world is Barry Ennis right now, and what is he doing?
Yeah, that intro and that came from my website. Definitely skims the surface there. I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time, and I'm currently living in Shanghai in China.
Wow. So I think we've discussed that, because my bedtime is so early, we have a hard time getting together, right?
Yeah, I'm so far ahead in the future. It's actually the next day for me talking to you right now.
That's a good problem. How is tomorrow? Is tomorrow going to be a good day for me?
I was about to say, yeah, I always like to give a forecast into the future. It's looking fantastic. So you have a lot to look
forward
to.
Fantastic. All right. So we are really diving into unique career opportunities to be sure you listeners aren't missing something that maybe you were meant to do, but you just don't know about it yet. And you haven't realized even that it's an option. And Barry, I loved your response to this question. What do you wish you'd known when you got into personal training? So, let's start, with this big hole of how many unique career opportunities there are in fitness today.
Well, I want to say they're an infinite number, honestly, because I really believe that in this day and age, with what you're capable of on the internet, you can take really anything that you're passionate about, even if it feels like just a hobby, and turn it into a very profitable business. And it's the same for the fitness industry. And that's definitely something I wish I knew just coming out of college and just getting started in the industry myself. It just seemed like there were very few clear paths ahead. And I could totally go off on a tangent here about how I feel that it would be of so much value for a lot of these certification programs to show you what options are available out there for you. But for a lot of them, you finish your certification, you get your certificate, and they kind of kick you out the door and say, okay, good luck. And it's up to you to really determine what to do next. And for me, that most obvious path was to just get a job teaching at a studio. My first certification was in yoga, so I started looking around at different studios that I could sub at, but I feel now that if I had known, there were probably so many other paths that I could have explored at that time if I had known they were available.
So give me some examples. What do you wish that you would have explored or thought about doing?
I have explored so many different paths in my career. I am aware of how many I could have taken then. I'm not sure I was ready at the time, but a lot of the different roles that I've found myself in have been, as as a teacher at a studio, um, as a private instructor, whether that's for yoga or personal training. I've found myself in the role of managing a team of instructors at a studio. A really unique role that I've found really fulfilling is consulting with different studios. So, helping them to build a class or build a brand or train their instructors. I've found myself teaching workshops. I've found myself creating YouTube videos and online content. I host my own podcast called Fitness Career Mastery. So I share a lot of the things that I have learned over my time in that podcast. So those are just a few. Oh, and I'm remembering more as we go. I've been in the role as a fitness model as well. These are just some of the few that come to mind that are really available, but I've seen people take so many other routes as well. And if you just allow your mind to open and hone in on what it is specifically that you're most passionate about, I feel it's very possible to create a business out of that.
So let's talk about that. So I'm going to fly a question at you that, Barry's not expecting. So if you're listening, he's having to fly deep early in the morning. Are you hearing this? Oh, so
I'm ready.
On those, one of the questions for a responsible, person going out into the world is, what about scale, and, building a business? I mean, which of those, teacher at a studio, private instructor, fitness model, and everything in between, which of those have you been able to monetize? And I think a concern for trainers, or people who look at training, there's a fear that, they have to work early and they have to work late and they have to work weekends. And so they want a business they can scale, meaning make more money, maybe not necessarily being there all the time. Where have you found, the balance in, doing what you love, but also having a life you love?
Ooh, that's a great question. There's so many different directions I feel I could take that. Well, I could easily go to that quote that states that if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel so much like work, right? So that's definitely always been my experience in most cases. For me, it's most fulfilling to be in this business and seeing people's lives change as a result. So I've found it a pleasure to get up early in the morning and maybe train a client because I'm seeing their progress and how I'm affecting their life positively. And been happy to work on weekends because that's when I have the greatest opportunity to touch many lives, because that's when many people are free to come in and take a class. Mm-hmm. But I understand that not everybody has the most open schedule. They have families, they have children, they have other commitments that limit the time that they're able to actually go teach or have that impact on other people. So yes, finding a way to scale what you do is definitely the route to go there, and definitely something very helpful to be able to do. I think I've found a lot of my success there by finding a problem that needs to be solved. Um, I think I've found the most success through my podcast in that way. I very clearly defined a problem that there's just not enough resources out there for fitness instructors to learn more to progress through their careers. So really honing in on that and being able to provide a lot of value through the content that I produce allows me to work fewer hours and have a larger impact because I'm solving a problem in people's lives. And you contrast that with maybe my YouTube channel that I was working on a number of years ago now. But I was just producing content for the sake of producing content. And that's something that just got lost in how many other yoga instructors are out there on YouTube putting up videos of classes. I definitely had a unique voice and I had a purpose to that, but I don't feel like I was really honing in on a specific problem that people were facing out there. So I think if you can answer that question for yourself, find out what it is that you're good at and how you can use that to solve a problem in people's lives, whether it's, in my case, it's other trainers out there, but for most people, it's going to be for just other individuals that are out there that might come into their classes, then that's a way you can start to scale what you do.
I love that you mentioned that. And I think even though directly this might be a reach for you listeners, but I do want to point out something that rings true of social media. And Barry and I were talking in the green room before we turned on the recording. I'm just wrapping up a book about social media. And this is one of the things that I point out in the book, that, it is a noisy world out there. There's, a world of opportunity that is so much bigger than it was 10 or 20 years ago. But there are also many more people competing for the same client or customer that you might be. So this is the thing that sets you apart. You're not just out there creating content, in that you're not just, say, posting a picture of you on Instagram looking fit. You're actually, if you have a message behind, here's, not this exercise form, but this exercise form. There's a difference, and here's why this matters. Telling a client or telling a prospective client, here's how, and here's how I can help you do it better, and here's why. That, I think, sets you apart. And really, that's what I hear you saying. And potentially right now, the other thing you're not saying that might also be true is you can raise your rates, to earn more. But if you're, say, Barry, consulting, and you're consulting and helping fitness professionals in, say, a group setting, you're reaching more people, making it, accessible for them. And yet you're able to monetize and make a real career out of doing something that you've learned and then love sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to touch on that you said, yes, it is noisy out there, and you may feel that what you're providing is something that so many other people are doing, but if it is solving a problem and it's coming from your own voice and your heart, then that's all that matters. Even if it feels like there are other people out there doing the exact same thing, people are going to really relate to your own voice, and you're going to find those people. And sometimes it might be a little bit hard to find exactly what it is that you want to do at the beginning. But if you just start somewhere, and really listen to that initial audience, even if it's just one or two, less than 10 people, and really serve them, it's really going to begin to grow quickly, even though it may not feel necessarily unique if you're staying true to your own voice. That's what matters most.
Yeah, love that. And what popped into my mind when you were talking about that is comparison kills joy. So, I think
Right.
it's good to look, what's Barry doing, but not necessarily to copy Barry. Find your
Exactly.
own way of expressing the way someone else is doing it. And I think there's a danger on social media. You find somebody that's, wow, look at their fans and follower numbers, and but really the goal is, you are unique and people will follow you when you start
Exactly.
expressing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there's a quote that I like that I want to share. It goes something like, "Real artists don't copy, they steal." So what that means is they're inspired by something else, but they turn it into their own. And I think that's exactly what needs to be done here. The reason there's so many voices out there are because a lot of people are seeing the success of others and trying to copy what they're doing without really infusing their own voice and message in there. And that's something that I was guilty of for a while, because I just thought that was what they were doing, and thought that's all it took. But you really have to take a step back, try to steal some inspiration from what you see out there, and then really turn it into your own offering.
Love that. Okay. So I would say you are kind of in an unconventional career right now, but do you have some examples of other more unconventional careers?
I think mine is quite unique. That's true. How I would describe myself now as an international fitness consultant. So um, I find myself flying around the world and consulting with different studios on how to either build their brand or train their instructors, or build a method for their class. So, what that means is how the class is taught. But I also have friends and colleagues that are very successful in, something I mentioned earlier was the fitness modeling industry. That you have, these DVD programs coming out. Not DVD anymore, but there's a lot of online content.
Wait a minute. My audience is still DVD, baby.
VHS.
I just threw away my cassettes, right?
Oh no.
Somebody is
Yes, yes.
listening saying, "They're her what?"
Exactly. You're going to have to put a link to a picture in the
Vocabulary.
something like that. But there's all these people in the background, right, who are either who are following along in the workout that is being led by someone, and those people
Oh yeah,
have to be found somewhere. So
a
I know
pip.
people that, yeah, I know a lot of people that are very successful in getting those jobs as background, um, I don't know what to say, artists, performers,
Yeah. How
trainees.
fun would that be? That's
Yeah,
great.
it's a lot of fun to be on set, and you get a really good workout in, and it's a great way to gain some exposure, and there's a lot of success there because you meet a lot of people as well, and I feel like that's always a good path to success in the fitness industry, putting yourself in a position where you're meeting as many people as possible.
Yeah, so
But
much so.
yeah, I know people who create their own online nutritional programs or have created a business doing virtual personal training. So they're able to train many, many more clients just over the internet than they would if just in the traditional way you would think, which is having your clients come to you or um, driving out to meet them. You're able to create a program for clients and allow them to essentially take themselves through that program on their own with a little initial training up front to ensure that they know how to stay safe during that workout and how to do the movements properly. But essentially, they take themselves through that program until they're ready to come back and advance or make a change. They just exchange a few videos with their clients and they're able to reach a lot more people that way. So I think that's a really unique career path as well.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many options. I mean, you can show a lot. So if you're out there wondering how does that work, it's not personal. You can show so much with using video, online to give those demonstrations. And with smartphones anymore, if a client actually says, "What is that? I don't know how to do that." I mean, you can in minutes. You could text them a video and say, "Here you go, just like this."
Exactly. There's so many possibilities.
Okay, so I'm going to back up to yours. So, I think, of all the chin dropping things you mentioned, yours is probably pretty exciting. International fitness consultant. So, at some point, you had a first gig. How did that get started? Because I would imagine then you do that first one and you have a way to leverage that for the second and the third and the ones that come after. So, that first one,
Sure.
how did that happen?
That's a good question. And it's one I get asked a lot. Like, how do you get these opportunities? This is amazing. And it's true. I have found myself in this small niche just by taking a chance and saying yes to something that felt a little crazy to do at the very beginning. But ultimately, what happened was that I did a second yoga teacher certification, and I was so inspired by what I learned there. It was very philosophical, more more philosophy based training than an asana based training. And I was so inspired by that I wanted to go to the source. So the chance that I took was moving across the world to India to study yoga in more depth there. And as a result of that, I met people from that part of the world. I wound up getting a job from someone that I met at the ashram that I was studying at in India, in Dubai. So I moved to Dubai after I was ready to move away from the ashram. And I quickly found myself integrating into the fitness industry and community there, because it was really just emerging at the time and just beginning to boom. And I found that I was very much in demand. And just from a few of the projects that I did there and the people that I met, so many more opportunities have emerged. It's incredible to me how I can be teaching classes here in Shanghai. And I've had people come into my classes who used to take my class in Beijing, used to take my class in Dubai, used to take my class in Los Angeles. Once you start saying yes to more of these opportunities and meeting more people, the world becomes a very, very small place.
That is very cool. And I hear so much of what you're doing and the opportunities coming to you they have kind of a spiritual nature. Would you agree? I mean, you're very in tune
I would definitely say that. I feel like all of the things that I do are kind of informed by that, or kind of come from that place. Um, I feel like my main goal when I'm teaching is to try to get people to feel comfortable enough to allow themselves to be vulnerable in some way during the class. Um, and if we can get vulnerable, that's when we're really able to have a breakthrough. We're able to realize some strength that we didn't know we had, or um, break through emotionally, or learn something about ourselves. But it requires that first. And I feel like that can be a very spiritual process, even in the middle of a cycling class. Um, Being able to let go a little bit and surrender and be vulnerable to the challenge that you're facing, and be open to the possibilities of what that moment will present to you.
Very cool. And, really a different way of approaching fitness that, some of the listeners might be used to. But I
Sure.
think not necessarily used to feeling, but used to talking about. We don't talk about it as much.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's very challenging to talk about. It's something I've been working on from the very start of my career, and did not come naturally to me at all. And it doesn't mean that I don't teach a very effective class and a good workout, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel that there's the potential to have such a greater impact on people than just helping them change the shape of their bodies, um, or giving them an endorphin rush. I've had it happen to me so many times, and it's what drives me, and it's what fulfills me and keeps me going and inspires me to do more. When people come up to me, I had a woman when I was getting ready to leave Dubai. She'd been taking my classes for 2 years. She always sat in the back. She never said very much to me. But when I was finally leaving, she came up to me and said, "Barry, you helped me through the most challenging part of my life." And I had no idea, but it was through what I was saying in the class and how I was relating it to the physical challenge that they were experiencing that allowed her to have enough consistent emotional breakthroughs coming to my classes that it deeply affected her on a personal, emotional, and you could even say spiritual level.
Mm-hmm. Love that. And when you have the chance to touch somebody like that, for every one of those who actually does end up telling you, how many more of them are there? So that knowledge
Mm.
is amazing. Okay, so couple of things as we wrap up here. What are your future predictions? We're talking to people who may be wrapping up their education, or the first part of their education,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
over, and people who are just into the early stages of their fitness career. If you can look at your little glass ball over there, what's it telling you?
What the future of the fitness industry is looking like?
Yeah, beyond tomorrow. Okay.
It's a great question. And I think the industry is at a pivotal point right now. There's a little bit of a question mark, because there's more and more content that's being put online. Uh, More and more people are taking classes online, finding virtual trainers, like the idea that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. But what's happening simultaneously is that is taking away from the group experience, that, or the one-on-one human interaction that you get from going to a physical class. So the question mark comes in right there. Are consumers going to continue to consume online content, or is it going to get to a point where they really deeply crave and connect most with that human to human interaction, where you're in a room with others and can feel their energy and you're inspired by that. That's something you can't get when you're consuming online content. So it's going to be interesting to see where the fitness industry goes next, because it's so easy to put that content online. And I think the way studios and physical spaces are going to continue to thrive is by continuing and furthering the experience that people are having when they come into a physical class. So I think those are two things to keep in mind when you're looking to enter your career in fitness. And one other thing I'd like to mention, Deborah, if I may, is
Absolutely.
I'm building a resource right now that will allow fitness instructors to really connect and hone in on different types of opportunities that are available, not just within their own city, but around the entire world, actually. So it'll allow them to take what they're most passionate about and turn it into something profitable by helping them connect with either the right studio or the right audience to share their gifts and their strengths with.
So awesome. Where can they learn more about that?
If they send me an email, I can give them, at this stage, I can give them early access to the website. So my email is be@barryennis.com. So my initials be@barryennis.com. And that's a great way to get early access to that resource. I think it's going to be something that's really helpful to fitness professionals and fitness studio owners out there.
Fantastic. Great. I will be sure, listeners, that'll be in the show notes, as well as fitnesscareermastery.com. And Barry, any last, piece of action for listeners who are exploring and want to take a next step? What do you suggest that they do in order to, maybe break out of the box, find something unique that really feels like a fit, if the things in a box like fitness instructor, personal trainer, if those don't feel quite like just where somebody wants to stop and land, what do you suggest that they do?
I think what comes to mind first is another quote that I love, that there's no such thing as a wrong decision, because you're either going to make the right decision or you're going to make a decision that's going to teach you something that's ultimately going to lead you to the right thing to do. So I would really encourage everyone to explore as much as possible, to say yes to as many things, because you're either going to make the right choice for you that will continue to advance you, or you'll make a choice that will very clearly indicate to you that this is not your path, and that will also direct you to where you need to go. And I'm purposefully keeping it a little vague like that, because I want everyone listening to really keep their minds open about what they can do. So just be really explorative, be adventurous, say yes, and don't be afraid to take action and be bold. The mistakes you make are going to teach you so much more than if you just waited until you felt you were ready, which honestly never really comes.
So true. Great advice, Barry. Thanks so much for being here. And fitness bros, if you're listening and we kind of triggered a question that you've got there's still a chance for you to enter that, submit it to us. Just leave it below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/podcast. And I would appreciate it so much if you'd leave us a rating in iTunes. Check out the blog and other podcast episodes in this series, in particular at fitnessmarketingmastery.com, and go make a difference.